Hi, my name is Adrienne Elmis. This is Men's Professional Wear 2021, an analysis of 6 different megatrends. This is part 3 of my honors conversion project. First, I am going to discuss 3 faith popcorn megatrends within men's professional wear. The first megatrend is 99 lives, which is defined as too fast a pace, too little time, causes societal schizophrenia, and forces us to assume multiple roles. The first of these that I put is the working father. This is someone who works all day and then comes home at night to his family. It can be difficult to try and balance your work life and your home life and kind of separate the two. They're two very different societal situations. These people are forced into very different roles within these situations. Um, so at work, they might be, a hard-headed, driven businessman, and then they come home and they have to be a compassionate, doting father, and this can be a little bit difficult to try and balance and switch between the two. Next is the small business owner. Usually for small business owners, this business, it kind of has become their baby. It's their project. It's something that they're very passionate about. So usually they are the one assuming many different roles within their business to try and get it to be exactly what they want it to be. They're wearing many different hats for their business. They can be a manager, a CEO, the HR representative, the finance department. So it can be kind of hard to balance all of these different roles and situations that they are having to play into to run their business as they want it. Another thing that plays into the 99 Lives megatrend is the concept of social media. Social media, many people have almost like different personalities depending upon the different social media. Many people, Facebook is something where they connect with their families and it's a little bit more professional, while maybe on Twitter it's a little bit more about like trying to be funny and trendy and things like that. With Instagram, they're trying to promote their like personal branding and trying to portray themselves in a sort of light, and so it can be kind of hard to balance all of these different pieces of their personality that they're trying to keep up within all these different social medias. And some people can kind of get lost in the perception of the personality that they are trying to keep up for their different social medias, or the personality that they have kind of conceptualized for social media versus the person that they are in real life. The next popcorn megatrend is clanning, which is defined as belonging to a group that represents common feelings, causes, or ideals, and validating one's own belief system. The first example that I called the after work drink. This is because I found that a lot of businessmen have like a bar or something of the sort that they frequent, usually with their other coworkers. This is somewhere that they can go to kind of still discuss work while winding down from work, or maybe have more, casual conversations with their coworkers. Bars in general are very social settings, and usually people that frequent a particular bar get comfortable with the people that work there and, the other people that frequent this place. So this is somewhere that they can kind of go and feel comfortable and feel surrounded by people that are maybe kind of similar to themselves, especially if it's somewhere that they are going with their coworkers. The next example is churches. I feel like this one is a little bit self-explanatory. It's always been a safe place for people to go with common ideals of their religion. It's somewhere that they can frequent and meet people and know that they are surrounded by people who live their lives the same way that they do. The next example I called subdivisions, but this kind of just goes for like neighborhoods in general. I feel like a little bit stereotypically, subdivisions are full of, middle class people, usually within the workforce, usually in like the suburbs. And like neighborhoods can kind of become a place for people to make friends and get comfortable with their neighbors. Like if you think of like, the neighborhood barbecue, maybe there's a house that everyone goes to kind of all like mingle within themselves. And this is just somewhere people can, choose to live in, a subdivision or an area like that. And they usually end up being surrounded with, people similar to themselves. And the final popcorn trend, one that's a little bit darker, is future tense, which is defined as consumers anxiety ridden by simultaneous social, economic, political, and ethical chaos find themselves beyond their ability to cope today or imagine tomorrow. Um, as I kind of discussed earlier when talking about men frequenting bars after work, substance abuse is kind of common within men working in professional settings. They can either use it to try and cope with the stress of their work environment or just the stresses of their life in general, or they start to use drugs to kind of, keep them going, to keep up with the energy of their job, or also to try and cope. And these can lead to some very negative side effects as they try to cope with what's going on around them. These high stress situations can also lead to mental health declines. Mental health declines are also very common in high stress jobs, which usually come with professional settings. They usually have a lot on their plate. And another that is also pretty dark, but suicide. Suicide rates in men are much, much higher, usually because of stresses that are listed within the definition of future tense megatrend. So these can be all kind of things that are responses to this worry that they can have with all that's going on within their work life. And next, I will discuss 3 Martin Raymond megatrends. The first trend is bleisure, which is business and leisure, and is as technology blurs the distinction between work and play, the notion of the business and leisure traveler seem less and less relevant in an age where we are connected 24/7 and working in a world where we are increasingly using social media to conduct business as well as to converse with friends and family. The first example of this is smartphones. Smartphones have kind of combined both work and play, which is great for having one device that you can, answer your business emails and also, text and communicate with your friends and play games on. But it kind of falls in the line of like, blurring these lines between business and leisure. It's easily distracting to be trying to do business on your phone, and maybe you're getting texts or notifications from other apps. Another example is work trip plus vacation. I know a lot of people who have to travel for their job, and they end up trying to kind of turn it into a vacation while also it being like a business trip. We kind of live in an age where it's a little bit hard to try and make time or maybe even save up money to be able to take a vacation and take, real time off of work. So, having a work trip that's also kind of turned into a vacation is also just kind of blurring the lines between business and leisure as, you're trying to conduct business and get some things done, but also trying to relax and maybe enjoy the new setting that you're in. And global internet access is kind of another example of this, as anywhere that you go, you can almost always find some sort of like internet connection. And this also kind of blurs the lines between business and leisure, as there's kind of no excuse for a job, saying that you were out of touch or, couldn't get a connection and things like that, as we live in a world now where it is very easy to stay connected with everyone, and so it can maybe be kind of difficult to find some separation between, business and leisure. And the next Martin Raymond trend is consumerism, which is conscious plus consumerism, which is used to describe a consumer who proactively chooses brands, products, services that have a social, ethical, civic and environmental aspect to them. The first example of this is electric cars, which are a little bit pricier, but many people are buying them to try and reduce the amount of fossil fuels that we're using. They're rechargeable, and there are a lot of electric car charging stations that are starting to pop up even in more rural areas, so they're starting to become a little bit more popular. And this is something that might be good for a businessman, as these are a little bit pricier to afford, but they do have a nice job to try and make some payments on a nice car like this to try and help the environment a little. Another example is the Moss Bros Eco Suit. Moss Bros is a higher end menswear brand. They're very popular, known for their suits and dressier wear. And so they introduced an eco suit, which is definitely higher up on the price range, but is known to be made of recycled materials and trying to reduce waste and try and be more of a sustainable product. Another example is veganism. Many people are choosing to become vegan. This usually ends up being a little bit pricier, paying for food sometimes. But this is, of course, good for your body and for the environment, reducing the amount of meat that is consumed and trying to, help animals, not using any animal products, any animal products tested on animals, things like that. And so people can choose to go to restaurants and select a vegan option, or can start to create their own meals from their grocery list, or buy, vegan substitute meat and things like that. The final Martin Raymond trend and the final part of my project is Renaissance, which is men and the Renaissance, which is used to describe a generation of men who are determined to define masculinity and masculine roles in a way that is positive and affirmative, without negating the role, influence, and status of women. I feel like this is well defined within the millennials right now, which are, kind of starting to be in their 30s, and these are a lot of men that are within the workforce right now. And there's like a couple examples that I've put here of things that they use to try and define these masculine roles. The first of which being watches. Women do have watches too, but I feel like especially for men in professional setting, having a nice watch is definitely very, very defining. It's something that they're usually very proud of, and I know a couple men who work in professional settings who collect watches actually and are very, very proud of their watches. Another thing is designer suits. Designer suits are very popular in professional settings for men, and can definitely be used as like a status symbol. And also beard care. There's a lot of brands dedicated specifically to, taking care of beards and men's, you know, like facial oils and things like that. There's a lot of brands that are targeted for women and their skincare, but now we see a lot of brands emerging targeted specifically towards men and beard care and their, skin care and, taking care of like manscaping and things like that. But that concludes this part of my honors conversion project, and I hope you enjoyed.